Welcome to In All Honesty, the podcast where we talk about the impact of inflammatory neuropathies like Guillain-Barré syndrome, CIDP, MMN and other related conditions. I'm Rich Collins, the Chief Executive of Inflammatory Neuropathies UK, the only UK charity that solely supports people impacted by these life-changing conditions. On each episode of this podcast, I'll be joined by someone who has something to say about inflammatory neuropathies. We will have some very honest chats, and I'm sure there's going to be some tears, mainly from me, along with some laughs. If you want to know more about what Inflammatory Neuropathies UK do, then head over to www.inflammatoryneuropathies.uk. So I'm delighted today to be joined by Clive Phillips. Hi, Clive. You all right?
I'm good. Good evening from New Zealand, Rich.
Yeah, so I'm over here in the UK in a very gloomy Lincolnshire, and Clive, you're over in whereabouts in New Zealand, are you?
I was talking to someone about this today. I'm literally in the village of Hope, which is near Nelson at the top of the South Island. So when people say, "Where do you live?" and I say, "Oh, I live in Hope," and they go, "No, I want a place." No, we literally live in a little village called Hope.
Oh, amazing! And you're not originally from New Zealand, are you?
I am not. So the those with a radar for a bit of an accent may detect that I'm originally from Birmingham, but I've been in New Zealand for getting on for 15 years now.
We've spoken many times. I've done your podcast, and I'm delighted that you've agreed to come and do ours as one of our first guests. So we're talking about inflammatory neuropathies. What's your experience with an inflammatory neuropathy then? I know, but no one else will. What's the deal?
What's the deal? So I have an ultra rare inflammatory neuropathy called multifocal motor neuropathy.
Easy for you to say.
It is. Yeah, your tongue does get tripped over it sometimes, but if you break it down, it's reasonably self-explanatory. So multifocal motor neuropathy. So it's, as I understand it, it kind of means peripheral nerves. It's motor function only, so no sensory involvement at all. And it's a weird beast, is multifocal motor neuropathy, or MMN. It has a tendency to be asymmetric, so it affects one side of the body more than others. As I say, it's peripheral nerves, and my experience is not dissimilar to a lot of people, which is that over a period of, prior to diagnosis, a period of about 6 years, I started to lose a bit of strength and function in my hands. I started to get a bit of muscle atrophy in my arms. I've never been an Adonis. I've never bulked up at the gym. So when I started losing muscle mass, you've kind of got to worry. And lost fine motor control, all in my left side, all in my left hand, my left arm. It was bad enough that the real trigger for finally going to the doctor and being persistent. So I'd been to the doctor and he'd kind of said, "You're getting old." I don't think I was, but you're getting older, shall we say. And he said, "Right, do hand strength exercises and things like that." But when I realized something was definitely not right was the day that I tried to give someone a thumbs up and couldn't. So you start to realize that that's something we take for granted and you've never had to think about in your entire life. And suddenly you're now having to try and tell your thumb to move and it's not moving. That led me to the doctors being a bit more persistent. And thankfully at that stage, the doctor was willing to listen. That then started what for me was, compared to many in the MMN world, quite a short diagnosis period of about 9 months from start to finish, by which time it had started to affect my legs and my feet. So I started to have foot drop. So yeah, it's a weird inflammatory neuropathy. What's going on isn't wholly understood, but there's some sort of immune attack on part of the nervous system. So it's not attacking the myelin. There's a little gap between the sheaths in the myelin, and on the edge of it is a thing called the node of Ranvier, and something in there is happening that is slowing and stopping the signal jumping from one bit of nerve to the next. It's as simple as I understand it.
But I think that whole, I mean, your description then of the thumbs up, I mean that you can't talk fine motor skills more than that, can you? In terms of impact, is you can't do a thumbs up.
No, it's weird. I will remember that day and exactly where I was, because it's one of those things. All the other things that I'd noticed, you kind of can start masking, and you can mask that your hand isn't as strong, I found, by bracing your elbow into your body a bit, and that gives you a bit of extra strength. But you can't mask the fact that you've just lifted your arm and gone to do a thumbs up and it hasn't happened, and you're like, hang on a minute.
So I take it that you can do that now and with treatment. Is that can you raise your thumb now, or is it gone?
Yeah, treatment's working. So yeah, so after, I mean, a 9 month diagnosis, and it was comparatively simple for me, which is not normally the case. Partly simplified by the fact that my symptoms had progressed to the point that a lot of things were quite quickly ruled out. But the key to really any successful diagnosis with MMN, as I learned, is identifying what they call is conduction block when they're doing what do they call it when they stick electrodes on you and
Yeah,
see
electroconduction
how you
test. Yeah, yeah,
nerve conduction study. Yeah.
yeah.
And I had a very thorough nerve conduct. By the time I got to see a specialist neurologist, first thing he did was a nerve conduction study, started to see conduction blocks straight away. And he had me in a room of about a dozen specialists at his monthly clinic within about 3 or 4 days of my first appointment. Dragged the guy out of retirement to have a prod and a poke. And very quickly they kind of narrowed their diagnosis options down. I had a spinal tap where they were looking for anti-GM1 antibodies that are found in about 50% of MMN patients. Didn't find them, albeit interesting, and that's one of the cases apparently that a lab in Glasgow do it. So my spinal fluid went all the way from New Zealand to Glasgow. Interestingly enough, although it wasn't found, when I was recently talking to Dr. Simon Rinaldi at University of Oxford, who's doing MMN research, he said that his view is everybody's got them. It's just the sensitivity of the test, the amount of them might not be, it might not be obvious. So they're really interested in that from a research perspective. But they didn't find those, but said, look, we think it's this thing called MMN. We don't think, and this is where they drop on we don't think you've got ALS or motor neurone disease. Oh, thanks for that.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're dropping it that way, but sadly for many, it is confused with that.
absolutely.
But what often is kind of like a final diagnosis check is actually giving you intravenous immunoglobulin and seeing if you respond. And I think they reckon 70 to 80% of MMN patients respond positively to IVIG. I responded within 3 days. So literally kind of my Christmas present to my wife, because I had IVIG treatment on about the 20th, 21st of December in 2019, was giving her a thumbs up as we were sat in bed on Christmas Eve.
Amazing.
Because I'd thought things were starting to, you start to get this sense, my wrist, which had gone really quite wonky, I could kind of wasn't as wonky, and I'm thinking, hang on, there's something. But that became my literal kind of test of, has this made a difference?
So how did that feel? You've just been given this diagnosis of something that you never heard of, and probably most people can't even fathom what it is, and it's affected you so much, and then they give you this another treatment which you probably never heard of, and don't know what's in it, and it does that, and it has that impact, and it changes it. How did that feel?
Oh, I mean, it's just like, it's like getting your life back. I mean, I think because by the stage of before treatment, I'd started to experience foot drop. And you kind of can't mask foot drop. You can mask a lot with your hand. You really can, as I kind of learned. But when you hear that slapping sound, that's how I knew. What is this noise when I'm walking? And then I realized it's my foot because I've not got control of it. And it's just going bang, bang. You can't disguise that. You start, you wouldn't be human if you didn't start to think, okay, what kind of slippery slope am I on now?
Mm.
Where is this leading to? And the reality probably is it felt like if that wasn't slowed down, it felt like it was getting faster. The deterioration was getting faster. And then you start to think, okay, am I going to end up not able to walk properly? Really, you know. So to be suddenly realizing that almost overnight, a lot of my symptoms have been reversed. But I don't care at that point whether it's temporary or not. I know it's probably temporary because that's what I've been told. Yeah, it's just like getting your life back. It's very much a second chance.
It's incredible, isn't it? How these treatments can make such a difference. So what we do is we thank all those people who give their plasma and allow it to be turned into IVIG because hey, it's a lifeline for a lot of people.
Absolutely, and I mean I was talking to people at the plasma donor centre here in Christchurch in February, I think, and essentially you need 300 donors per year to treat me for a year, and there are I think 10,000 donors in New Zealand, give or take. So yeah, I've had friends who've started. My wife has started donating plasma, and I genuinely think people that do that are giving people back their lives or
Absolutely.
aspects of their life. It's remarkable, and
It is it's an incredible gift to people. In terms of your MMN diagnosis, I mean, I know you've kind of taken that and run with it quite considerably. Can you tell us a bit about making the most of now and what you're planning to do?
I get diagnosed not that long after we had the whole COVID thing, and then, and not to brush over that, but actually it was a point in time that left my wife and I going, okay, what are we doing next? You get a lot of time to reflect when you're stuck in the same house together for weeks on end. And we decided to move from our house in Wellington from the North Island to the South Island. And somewhere in all that, I started to think seriously about doing some of the adventurous bike rides that I had always kind of put off. And the first thing that came to mind was riding the length of New Zealand. It's a great trail, the Tour Aotearoa. It's been going for a few years. And I thought, I've been given this second chance. I want to do that. And naturally, you then start to think, how can I do that to benefit others? I've been reaching out to the GBS support group New Zealand, who also cover MMN and CIDP, very much like you do, other inflammatory neuropathies. I'd got to meet a few of them and thought, why don't I raise awareness and some money for research because nobody was doing research. Well, it didn't seem like anyone. There wasn't an obvious place to go to say, I'd love to raise money for you because you clearly fund MMN research. So that started off a search which led me to the GBS CIDP Foundation. And they said, love the idea. We don't have a fund, but we'll set one up dedicated for MMN. And all through this process, I wanted to put a positive spin on MMN as much as I could. And I'd heard people with GBS talking about getting better slowly. And I thought, I reckon, what can I do with MMN? And that's where making the most of now came from, as trying to put a positive spin on it. And that led to a bike ride it's now led to 4 bike rides over the years. But we're about to go into our biggest one, 3 weeks away from something that's been in the very serious planning stages for almost 2 years now, which is the Tour De MMN, which will see me and four very great friends, all of whom served like I did in the military in the UK. And we're going to tackle basically a ride around France, which we're riding the 1955 Tour de France route because it's 70 years from the first British team and tackling the Tour de France. And we are going to kind of ride in their footsteps or their wheel tracks and try and do that. And genuinely, it's one of those challenges that I genuinely have no idea whether we're going to achieve, and none of us do. Even those that don't have MMN or any other condition. But I get a double dose of IVIG in 2 weeks' time. I fly to the UK, get over my jet lag, get across to France, and then start pedaling, and hopefully don't stop till I get to Paris.
So just to put a bit of perspective on this for those guys who are listening, um, I mean, you say a ride around France like it's nothing. How many miles is it in total you're doing?
Oh, you're going to ask me in miles now, aren't you?
Oh, I am
I've
because
gone
we're
all
in the UK and
I've
that's
gone
what
all
everyone
metric.
uses.
I reckon I think it's about 2,000. I would say, um, maybe just shy of that. Yeah, I mean, we're doing 20. Let me think about it. We're doing 22 stages, and the vast majority of them are at least 100 miles, tens of thousands of feet of climbing, up through the Alps, the Pyrenees. Yeah, I mean, it's not for the faint-hearted.
And it's every
And
day.
I,
How many
and I,
rest days?
we've got three rest days with community meetings. So we'd love to see anybody that's listening. Here's my plug in, where are we? Zurich. We've chosen some pretty cool places. Zurich, Avignon, a little town in the Pyrenees called Bagnols de Bigorre, and then we're going to do a big one hopefully in Paris when we finish. So it's not for the faint-hearted. It's not. I mean, I genuinely don't know if it's possible. I genuinely don't know whether the impact of doubling, tripling the normal amount of exercise I do on a big training week, what impact that's going to have on my condition. I get IVIG normally every 6 weeks, and I've been monitoring through grip strength how my symptoms change over that 6 weeks. And I've got a really, really clear pattern, which basically shows that after IVIG, it takes about 10 days for me to reach maximum strength, maximum efficacy, if you like, of the treatment.
Mm.
My symptoms are then fairly stable for 2 to 3 weeks, and then they tail off. And that's pretty much normal. They talk about the half-life of IVIG being 3 weeks. So that's before it starts to kind of deteriorate in your system, and you need a top up. So I'm fairly standard in that sense.
Mm.
So we're doing a ride that will start on about day 10 of my cycle, and then I'm riding for 3.5 weeks. So I can expect some drop off, but what we'll be looking for all the way through is that drop off happening much faster, because now I'm just pushing my body too hard, and we don't know the answer, and I'm a little research study of one into how extreme can you go.
And we'll be watching it. We don't want anything bad to happen. We want all the best, but you do have to be very, very careful. I think I mean, for anyone listening who've got MMN or CIDP or even who've had GBS and be listening and going, this is. I wish I could do this. We don't advise that anyone just picks up and does this. Clive's been training for a very, very long time to do this. But saying that, hey, aspirationally, this is amazing. There's a lot there. What would you say to someone who went, oh, I fancy a go at something like this? Maybe not a 3 week challenge, but getting on their bike, riding around a bit. What's your advice to folk?
Well, I mean, it's the advice, and I think this applies to anything, whatever how are you going to make the most of now? We are, it can be all, and I know it's difficult, and there are moments where you've got to feel sorry for yourself and all that kind of stuff, and a bit annoyed at the world for dealing with whatever condition it is, whatever it is you're going through. But there's a lot of positives to life, and I think if we can focus on making the most of what is good about life, don't bite off more than you can chew when you start. So be realistic. There's that fine balance between realistic goals and challenging goals, and I like to be on that edge. But I think reach out to others, and it's a big part of what we do with making the most of now is trying to connect with others, and there's nothing better than a problem shared is a problem halved. Talking to someone else who's in the same shoes, nobody gets it like somebody with it. And that applies whether you're the person with a condition, whether you're someone who looks after or provides care to someone who loves somebody. There's nothing. My wife will sit and chat to the wives of and husbands of other people with the condition, and that they can connect, and that gives you huge strength, and that gives you the confidence. I think if you're not sure, there are lots of people in the MMN community and the wider, you kind of just love helping each other. If you're not sure how to go about a particular challenge, you're not sure how far to push you, there's plenty of people who can help guide you. And in some respects, even if you don't end up doing what you envisaged at the start, that social connection is so important. These conditions can be so lonely, and the rarer they are, there's MMN is 1 in 170,000 people. You're not going to bump into someone very often who goes, "Oh yeah, I've heard of it," let alone, "Oh yeah, I've got it."
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but there are really strong communities. This is where social media can do real good. There are really strong global communities on social media. There's organizations like you guys at Inflammatory Neuropathies UK who are just there to be, I think, as much as anything, to be that bridge to the help you need. And in fact, I now sit, I didn't mean to do that, but I sit on the board of the GBS CIDP Foundation, and they actually have a kind of Be the Bridge campaign. Now that's about bridging, getting knowledge into the neurologists and the specialists. But I think any organization that's in the kind of patient support game is in the connection game. So reach out if you want to tackle something. And there's always, I think the other thing to say finally is tell somebody else about it. You don't have to deliver on exactly what you were going to deliver and what you planned, but it does motivate you once you've told somebody. It kind of holds you accountable in a way that if you're just telling yourself, you can. I say to my wife, "Oh, I've got to go to the gym today." She'll find out whether I've gone to the gym or not. And it's the small things.
Absolutely. I mean, your point on community, I think, is amazing. I've been in this area now for just over a year, and my biggest takeaway by far is how amazing our community is across inflammatory neuropathies across the world. It's amazing, an amazing global community, and yeah, everyone should reach out and talk to it. No one should be facing one of these conditions on their own. They're horrible conditions. I know. I haven't got it myself. I really, really don't want one. But all the folk I speak to who go through it, these are horrible conditions. Talk to each other. It's really important. Clive, if people want to follow your journey or they want to reach out and have a chat and say, "How can I do this?" Where can they find you? You mentioned social media and a nice little plug earlier. Here's your opportunity. How can people get you?
Well, so if you look if you look up MMN and making the most of now, you'll find our website, which is makingthemostofnow.co.nz. And then we're making the most of now on Facebook, Instagram. Those are the best LinkedIn if you're in the business world. And I have used X or Twitter, but I'm not finding that gives me the real reach, interestingly. But we're still there. We still do monitor it and post on it occasionally. But yeah, just get in touch. And then, if you want to email, it's clive@makingthemostofnow.co.nz. So if you want to follow the crazy antics of 5 middle-aged nutters, one of whom's got an inflammatory neuropathy, check out the website. We've got a link on the website to our new tracking site. So if you're a dot watcher, you can watch us go really, really slowly up climbs in real time. Or more sensibly, you can look at the replay and see what went on. You'll also see probably the far more interesting and frenetic journeys of the support crew, because they're going to have trackers on them as well. I'm sure our social media will be as full of the joys of French patisseries, boulangeries, and markets as the support crew try and get the food to fuelers as it will be just pictures of bikes. So a bit like people sometimes tune into the coverage of the Tour de France to see the scenery, you can do that with us too.
And
We
there
are
is a
raising
documentary being made, isn't there?
Yes, yeah. This is driven by a number of things, but I really wanted to have something that can, we are about trying to raise awareness. We're about trying to connect the community, and then funding for research. But the awareness raising, the connection, we wanted something that allows us to do that on an enduring basis. So I've got an amazing team from a local Kiwi-based film crew, Silver Eye Films, who are going to produce a feature-length documentary, which we will be hopefully taking around cinemas and venues in Europe, in the States, New Zealand, probably early next year into your springtime, I'm guessing. They've been doing a lot of filming in the last 6 months, build up, getting background coverage. And that's, that really is creating something that's enduringly useful, because any one-off event will only generate so much interest. But that's why we're doing the film stuff.
A good bit of legacy. That's what we want.
That's it, right? And it means that, it gives something that you can use, for example, and go, we're going to have a big evening and we're going to have come and get together, see the film. It just enables us to keep moving, keep sharing the message, keep connecting people. I get to learn so much in the process. So I get to talk to neurologists, I get to talk to researchers and people like you. And it's also, as we found at the UK cycling show that you went to, you have a film camera, film crew somewhere, people come and find out what's going on. So it's a means to achieving awareness.
Hey, we told so many people about MMN that weekend. It's unbelievable. So and that was all thanks to you being there. So brilliant, Clive. I know that it's very late for you now, and you're gonna need your beauty sleep. I believe you've got a big ride coming up. Thank you so much, Clive. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always, to talk to you. People can follow you. They can watch that film. Keep an eye on our stuff. We'll be constantly putting things up about Clive and the Tour De MMN. And when the film is available, how people can get hold and see that as well. So thank you so much, and really good luck with it. We're looking forward to watching.
Awesome. And I hope, Rich, thank you for the opportunity. It's been brilliant. I hope we might see you on a climb somewhere, even if you're cheering along. But I know you're going to be cheering from afar. So, and I really appreciate everything you and the rest of the team do to share the word, not just about MMN, but about all these other kind of conditions that, as you said, wouldn't wish it on anybody, but they are a reality for a lot of people. So what you do is invaluable. Thank you.
Nice one. Thank you, Clive. You look after yourself, and good luck with it.
Thanks, mate.
You've just listened to an episode of In All Honesty, a podcast made by Inflammatory Neuropathies UK. It was presented by me, Rich Collins, and was produced by Chris Morton. To find out about what we're up to at Inflammatory Neuropathies UK, head over to www.inflammatoryneuropathies.uk or check out our socials at InflamNeuro UK. That's at INFLAMNEURO UK.